Hi, my name is Allison Glockson, and this is my CAA number 3, where I will be going over key cases and laws that shaped bilingual education in America today. The first act is the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, also known as ESEA. This act was placed in 1965, and it addressed the academic needs of poor children. This act targeted lower-income families, and the government started funding to lower-income schools and school districts to provide more resources for these students. 2. The Bilingual Education Act. President Lyndon B. Johnson signed this act into law on January 2, 1968. The act is also known as Title VII. It authorized resources to support educational programs, train teachers and aides, develop and disseminate instructional materials, and encourage parental involvement. It did not require schools to use a language other than English in order to receive funding. This act was aimed at children who were both poor and educationally disadvantaged because of their inability to speak English. 3. The Brown v. Board of Education case, which happened in 1954. This case ruled that segregation in public schools was prohibited by the Constitution. It dismissed the separate but equal theory that was previously known. A disadvantage to this case was ELL students were being placed into classrooms with English natives, and the ELLs were falling behind and dropping out of school because they still had disadvantages even though they were treated equal. 4. The Lau v. Nichols case in 1970. Around 1,790 Chinese students were failing in school because they could not understand the language used in the classrooms, which was English. Edward Steinman filed a law case on behalf of Lau, whose child was one of the many Chinese students who could not understand at school, and he alleged that they were being denied education on equal terms. The justice declared that the Chinese were entitled to special assistance to enable them to participate in school equally. The sink-or-swim theory was no longer acceptable after this case, and San Francisco officials signed a consent agreement to provide bilingual education for the city's Filipino, Chinese, and Hispanic children. 5. The Equal Educational Opportunities Act, also known as EEOA. This act was put into place in 1974, and it prohibits discrimination against faculty, staff, and students. It acts against discrimination of sexual discrimination, racial discrimination, religious discrimination, discrimination against English language learners, and discrimination against students and faculty and staff who have disabilities. 6. The Castaneda v. Pickard case was a case in Texas in 1978. The court ruled in favor of Castaneda. The outcome of this case was the development of the three-pronged test to determine whether schools are taking appropriate action in meeting obligations for teaching ELL students. The criteria for the three-pronged test are: 1. Based on sound education. 2. Implemented effectively with sufficient resources and personnel. And 3. Evaluated to determine whether they are effective in helping students overcome language barriers. 7. The Civil Rights Act of 1964. This was a major act that helped ban race, sex, and national origin discrimination in public facilities. It is also known as Title VI. The government provided financial aid and funding for English language learners at this time, and the government also ensured that these children will have an equal chance to succeed in school. This act helped end segregation. 8. The Teresa P. v. Berkeley case, which happened in 1989. The lawsuit was over inadequate resources, staff, assessment, and placement procedures for LEP students in Berkeley, California. The district failed to hire a sufficient number of credentialed teachers to teach bilingual students. Meta lost the lawsuit. Judge D. Lowell Jensen found no factual support for civil rights violation in this case. 9. The Rios versus Reed case in 1977. This case is about a federal judge who ruled that a school district in New York was violating the rights of LEP students by not providing full ESL and bilingual programs. These programs that they were providing also did not include a bicultural component. 10. The U.S. versus Texas case in 1981. A United States judge found that Texas was segregating students in inferior Mexican schools and also had vilified the language, culture, and heritage of those children with grievous results. The judge mandated bilingual education in grades K through 12 as a result of this case. And here is my bibliography with the sites I used along with the textbook.